Welcome back to the At Risk podcast. I'm your host, Maxilia, and today's episode is a little different from what we usually do. Today, the At Risk podcast will be endorsing a political candidate. Now, that's not something I've ever done before on my channel. Usually, I just talk about politicians broadly. I don't necessarily get into the weeds of like who I'm voting for and why I'm voting for who I'm voting for. Except this time it's a little different. I would love nothing more than to encourage people to vote and rank number one Zohran Mamdani for the New York City mayoral election. Now, I am not a New York resident, which is why I feel very comfortable openly talking about this election without feeling like I'm harming anyone or persuading someone to do something that they shouldn't in my state. But I do feel really comfortable talking about this candidate because he is so progressive, because he is literally life-changing with the policies that he's brought up. And I feel like it would be a disservice to not use this platform to highlight someone as incredible as Zohran Mamdani. So let's get into it. So let's be honest, New York City has been going through a rough time. As a Jersey girl who lives very close to Manhattan and is in New York City at least once or twice a week, I can say that the city is very different from what it used to be. Rent is damn near criminal over there. I would love to live in the city, except I don't want to have to sell my kidney to be able to afford a studio apartment. And groceries, forget it, unaffordable. I used to try to go to like cute little grocery stores in the city. I have a really good friend of mine that loves like artisanal goods, and like we'll go to special grocery stores for things like that. But it's literally so expensive these days. Working class people are barely holding up while billionaires continue to build luxury high-rise apartments that very few people live in or can afford to live in. But then there's one candidate that stands out above the rest, who's openly talking about not being able to afford groceries, not being able to afford rent, not being able to afford transportation. And that is Zohran Mamdani.
New York Mayor Eric Adams has been indicted by a federal grand jury.
Every politician says New York is the
greatest city on the globe.
But what good is that if no one can afford to live here? City Hall is engulfed in corruption.
Unscientific report.
The cost of living is the real crisis. New Yorkers are being crushed by rent and childcare. The slowest buses in the nation are robbing us of our time and our sanity. Working people are being pushed out of the city they built. A mayor could change this, and that's why I'm running. I'll make buses fast and free.
So I can just get where I'm going.
I'll make childcare available to all New Yorkers at no cost.
I want to raise my kid in New York.
And I'll freeze the rent for every single rent-stabilized tenant.
These Eric Adams rent hikes are killing us.
Life in this city doesn't need to be this hard. But politicians like Eric Adams and Andrew Cuomo want it to be this way. They care about their donors. They care about themselves. They don't care about you, the working class who keep this city running. This campaign is for every New Yorker who believes in the dignity of their neighbors. And the government's job is to actually make our lives better. We can afford to bring down the rent, have world-class public transit, and make it easier to raise a family. We can do all of that and so much more, because this is New York. We can afford to dream.
The establishment hates him. People are out to get him. But I promise you, none of the negative things that you have heard should deter you from voting and ranking him number one. The worst thing that people have said about him is that he went to an Ivy League institution, that he, quote, hid his wife, which he just had a private ceremony with her. I think that's perfectly fine. And people like to claim that he's anti-Semitic, but later on in the video, I'll go in great detail as to why I do not think he is anti-Semitic. What makes Zohran Mamdani different from other candidates in this race is that he is the only open democratic socialist. And that's not a red flag that they want you to believe. It's exactly what the city needs. So what does a socialist actually mean? You hear that word all the time, and depending what news channel you watch, you probably think that's a bad thing. But as a fellow democratic socialist, I must explain to you what socialism is. It's not some scary slogan. It's basic human decency. Public schools that are fully funded, free school lunch, universal childcare, universal health care, and housing that's affordable. It's seeing healthcare as a human right, not just a luxury, making sure that parents aren't drowning themselves in debt just to be able to take their child to daycare. I mean, it's a crazy time to be alive right now in the United States because capitalism is simply crushing our souls. But when you think of socialism, I want you to always think about it's literally putting people over profit. It's the opposite of capitalism. And that's exactly why the donor class is panicking. Who is the donor class? Andrew Cuomo, who is also running for mayor, former disgraced New York City governor who was found to have been accused by 13 credible women of sexually harassing them. And also, this makes me really sad, and it's really hard to say as someone who experienced a lot during COVID-19. But Andrew Cuomo famously chose not to tell people that seniors were dying in nursing homes. In fact, he tried to cover it up. And that hurts a lot to me because I lost my father during COVID-19. He was one of the first people to pass from the disease or virus, I should say. And it was really heart-wrenching. And so to me, it's really disappointing to see the likes of Andrew Cuomo even being anywhere high in the polls, but he is. And the reason I go on this side tangent about Andrew Cuomo when discussing the donor class is because he's getting so many donations from people across the board, from DoorDash to landlord organizations. Millions and millions of dollars are being funneled into this man so that he can win and that he can basically get their best interests out there. So for DoorDash, for example, DoorDash doesn't want to abide by certain policies, rules, and city ordinances that make it difficult for their drivers to get from point A to point B. But there's a safety thing at risk here. Andrew Cuomo doesn't care about stuff like that. If DoorDash gives him $1 million in his campaign, that is unspoken that when DoorDash needs something, Andrew Cuomo is basically, I shit you not, their bitch. I don't make up the rules. That's just how it works. He is funded by so many large corporations that are dying to keep New York the way that it is. But you know who's not getting funding by millionaire donors and landlords and other shady organizations? I mean, Andrew Cuomo is literally being backed by a person that gets money from ICE facilities, that makes money off of the black and brown bodies that have been kidnapped and thrown into ICE facilities. But Zohran, he's wonderful. He's delightful. He's not getting a single penny from AIPAC, from DoorDash, from landlord associations. The man has ran a grassroots organization. He's been knocking on doors every single day, taking the subway to and from places, bumping into New Yorkers and telling them that he will fight for them, that he will advocate for them, and that he is willing to make a difference. Because he, again, believes in putting people over profit. Zohran's not running on empty slogans. He has the most detailed people first platform in the race. One of the first things that he wants to do is make grocery stores cheaper. How do you make grocery stores cheaper in New York City of all places, right? Especially with how high the taxes are. Well, he wants to break up corporate monopolies and build city-run municipal markets. What does that even mean? Basically, what he would do is the city itself would have its own supermarkets where there's set rates for how much everything would cost. People would be able to continuously shop there and they wouldn't have to worry about inflation or what's going to happen because there's a war happening in another country and most of our goods come from that country. Like, this allows us to have the cost of goods be controlled by the mayor himself or herself. But in this case, since we're fighting for Zohran to get it, hopefully this is the type of plan that, like, you guys see is worth having and is worth picking a mayor over, because no one wants to spend $50, $60, $100, $200, $300, $400 at the grocery store for a handful of things. And that's what it's starting to feel like. You can only afford a handful of things and it comes out to like $110. And you're like, this is actually insane. And it's an issue that we have here in the state of New Jersey, but I feel like given how expensive New York City has gotten, it's reached a point where the everyday person is genuinely struggling to survive. And Zohran, he understands that. He sympathizes with that. He is not a millionaire. He is not some guy that's been backed by millions of donors and gets private funding from all these massive corporations. He's just a normal guy like you and me. And he finally stopped to think, why the hell is New York City so expensive? Why are the grocery stores so fucking expensive? Well, here he is with a plan to make that cheaper. Something else that he wants to do is universal childcare, paid for by the city because every family deserves to thrive. Childcare is increasingly expensive. I don't have kids, but I have heard enough from friends that do have children and my siblings that have kids that it is extremely expensive to put your child in daycare. It is extremely expensive to put your child in Montessori school. It's extremely expensive to try to find like adequate childcare when you're trying to balance working and maybe going to school and you don't have access to like family or friends that can help you out. And again, I don't have kids, so I can't speak to what that lived experience is other than what I've been told. But from my understanding, it is not a great experience to be paying that much money in childcare, to be paying almost what you pay in rent. I mean, it's insane. Childcare is no joke. And Zohran, he wants to make that affordable for the everyday family, for the everyday parent, for the single mother, for the single father, for the grandmother that's taking care of her child, for the foster mom and dad that took in some kids. This is why it's important. You having universal childcare makes it accessible for you to go out and work. Makes it accessible for you to go out and go grocery shopping and like handle and take care of goods and things that need to be done within your house. Imagine how we could make somebody else's life better by just voting for the guy that actually cares about those issues. Another amazing plan that Zohran has is that he wants to build 200,000 public housing units, not shelters, but think of it as affordable in name only, deeply affordable, publicly owned housing. Sorry, not affordable in name only is what I meant to say. But basically, what Zohran is thinking of is having 200,000 homes automatically prepared to go, not shelters, but like homes that people can go into. And that should help give people access to housing. It should offset the issue that so many people have, which is they're like living with a bunch of roommates, or they had to like rent out a bedroom and their name's not on the lease, or you're living in a basement. And it's just like the situation in New York when it comes to housing has gotten increasingly out of control. I have a friend that won the New York City lottery for housing. Why is his place still over $3,000 for a studio? Mind you, the lottery made it so that it was supposed to be more affordable. I'm pretty sure it halved it. There are places in New York charging over $4,000 for a studio apartment. Zohran Mamdani understands that that is unbelievable. That is ridiculous. And so what he's trying to do by building these homes and having them ready to go is we're finally putting people into places where they can afford, where they have dignity, where they can feel like they belong. Do you know how much 200,000 houses, like so many people could be serviced? So many people could have better access to just life, because shelter, like housing, is a basic human right, in my opinion. Okay. And so when Zohran looks at the homeless problem in America, and he looks at the homeless problem specifically plaguing New York City, and people try to act like most of the people that are homeless it's because of mental health, and oh, it's because people don't want to work. Like, that is just not true. Those are Republican talking points. Those are like racist dog whistles. Those are whistles that are supposed to make you not question why are people homeless in one of the richest nations in the world. Like, and they're not all suffering from mental health issues. A vast majority of them just simply could not afford to live in New York City anymore. They genuinely, some of them, missed 1 or 2 payments and found that they were quickly evicted. Found that after a few months of struggling to pay rent and not knowing how to make ends meet, found themselves out on the street. And Zohran understands that people are in desperate need of help. And so this is one of the reasons why I am urging you, I implore you to research this man and to genuinely read on what he wants to do to change New York City, because boy, oh boy, is it going to be phenomenal if he gets elected. Something else that Zohran Mamdani wants to do is strengthen mental health care in New York City. Rather than having New York Police Department cracking down on mental health, well, basically having them tackle mental health crises, what Zohran is coming up with is that there should be like a separate division that handles mental health crises, like many other states have done, like many other cities have done. And then this way, police can focus on what their actual job description is, which is fighting off crime and things like that, whatever. And then these mental health care professionals who are trained, who are literally the most knowledgeable about de-escalating these types of incidents, they would be the ones to ultimately de-escalate and go out to the scene of an issue if someone is having a mental breakdown, if someone's going through psychosis, if someone is shouting and yelling in the street. Like, they can handle that rather than the police coming in to handle it. They're not equipped with the right tools, training, or resources to deal with mentally ill people. Instead of the police going and beating the person or arresting the person, these people could get access to medical care. They could get stabilization beds. They could be provided with housing. And this is all of the ways that Zohran Mamdani wants to support unhoused people. That 200,000+ housing isn't just for unhoused people. It's for the everyday New Yorker. But when we add the additional layer of stabilization beds, mental health care, putting housing first over NYPD crackdowns, we clearly see that this is a robust plan to address the homelessness issue in the city of New York City. And by far one of my favorite things that Zohran Mamdani is trying to do is literally making the buses cheaper. And by cheap, I mean free 99. Yes, you heard me. He's trying to make the New York City buses free. Wouldn't that be so beautiful? Wouldn't that be so incredible? Dedicated bus lanes, better service, and a mayor who actually uses public transportation so he understands the issues that you as an everyday New Yorker are going through. So those are just a few things that he is thinking of doing to make New York City better than what it is now. I mean, genuinely, it brings me so much joy to see someone actively have a plan for breaking down systems of oppression, for breaking down capitalism, for breaking down unaffordability for the everyday New Yorker. Now, if Zohran's so great, why have you heard either nothing about him, or if you have heard something about him, it was like that weird New York Times article where they were like, we're not endorsing anyone, but we don't really know how this guy's plans are gonna make happen. They were talking about Zohran Mamdani, but said absolutely nothing about disgraced former Governor Cuomo. And I feel like on social media, I've seen some attacks against Zohran Mamdani, people calling him anti-Semitic, people saying that he's only ever had like a real job for like under 5 to 6 years or something like that. People are saying that he doesn't have years and years and years of experience in politics. But the other option is literally Andrew Cuomo, the man who, when he was in power, hid the fact that elderly people were dying in nursing homes so he could keep a $5 million book deal. Do you want that guy? Because he's the front runner. Him and Zohran Mamdani are the front runners. So it's like, do you want the scumbag that tried to pull up the gynecological records of the women that credibly accused him of sexual assault and harassment? Or do you want the guy that happens to be a little young, takes public transportation, it's constantly speaking out against oppression, is constantly speaking about the needs of Palestine, the needs of the wants and needs of the everyday New Yorker. He understands that the average person does not support the genocide that is happening in Palestine. He's one of those people. He's on the right side of history. So he is running against a huge corporate machine. He's been falsely smeared as anti-Semitic, despite being someone who's fought for Palestinian freedom and built solidarity with Jewish New Yorkers organizing for justice. He's been targeted by racist dog whistles, like Andrew Cuomo's flyers that altered his image to make him look darker, hairier, and more foreign. That's not politics. That's just straight up racism. Full stop. So why do they keep calling him anti-Semitic if he's not anti-Semitic? Have you seen what's been going on in the media lately with pro-Palestinian voices? So Zohran Mamdani has been very open and very vocal about his stance on wanting Palestine's genocide to end. He's been very open and clear about he does not believe that any country, any state should be run by like a religious hierarchical system where only those of a specific religious class have access to certain goods and access, whereas those that don't get treated like less than. He doesn't support an apartheid state. Any apartheid state. And so a lot of people have started conflating pro-Palestinian sentiment and bastardizing it to be anti-Semitic. Whether you say anything critical of Judaism or not, whether you have ever openly said anything disheartening or disparaging about Jewish people, so many people are being called anti-Semitic, including Zohran. So in my personal opinion, as someone who researches this, who works in this space, who dedicates most of their time to combating hate speech, I can assure you that Zohran Mamdani is far, far from being anti-Semitic. But Andrew Cuomo, that stunt that he pulled, where he altered and doctored the pictures of Zohran Mamdani on flyers and tried to make him look darker, hairier, and more foreign, it's just straight up Islamophobia. It's just straight up racism. They wanted to make Zohran look more Muslim, more ethnic, whatever the heck that means. Isn't it crazy that a fellow Democrat is pulling that stunt? That's something you expect from a Republican. He's literally the Democrats' Trump. Andrew Cuomo is literally the Democratic Party's Trump. And I don't know about you, but I am sick and fucking tired. Like, absolutely tired of the Trump administration. I don't need a guy that's just like Trump disguised as a Democrat to be doing the same shit. If Zohran wins, it could fundamentally change how the Democratic Party moves, moving forward. Because it would prove that progressive policies actually matter. That people actually want to change. That people are tired of the status quo. Every tactic that they've used against Zohran is straight from the playbook that has always tried to discredit progressive leaders of color. Let's be clear. These attacks don't work unless we let them. We are smarter than that. We know the truth. So, I've slammed Andrew Cuomo quite a bit during this podcast episode, but something else that I didn't highlight is that Andrew Cuomo sat on $600 million in federal voting funds. He has a long history of pushing out leaders of color, discrediting progressives, and protecting real estate donors. And now he's trying to make a comeback, despite so many sexual harassment and sexual assault allegations with multiple credible accusers. Despite the fact that it was New York City's Attorney General that told that man, hey, I have some pretty good evidence against you that you're a creep. Zohran Mamdani has nothing even close to that level of scandal. Just nothing. But Cuomo has some of the most heinous crimes that he has committed as an elected official. And I just feel like the time has come for us to make that man retire. Retire. It is time for you to pack it up, Cuomo. Pack it up. Like, I personally don't understand how someone could hear all of the terrible, terrible things that Cuomo did and think that he deserves to be in power again. He is not going to change if we give him more power. It just, I don't know how to make this clearer, but he doesn't actually care about running to be the mayor of New York City. He wants to be president of the United States of America. And he's using the New York City mayoral election as basically a test, a litmus test to see if he wins, what it would be like for him to one day become president. And then all of the people that have openly criticized Trump for being a felon, a sex offender, a criminal, if you will, like all the people that have made those statements about Trump, no matter how you feel about them, right? Those people would not be able to make any type of statement against Cuomo because he's the same type of guy. It's the same guy. There's no difference between Trump and Cuomo, except one pretends to be a Democrat and the other pretends to care about the white conservative class. Can you guess which one's which? Someone else running for mayor who you should absolutely not rank, and if I haven't said this, do not rank Andrew Cuomo. Whatever you do not rank Andrew Cuomo. He does not even deserve to be on your ballot. Someone else who's trying to make a comeback, who absolutely needs to get the hell out of our face, is Eric Adams. Now, I have an entire video in my backlog that I've never released where I go in great, great detail about all of the scandals related to Eric Adams. And frankly, just comment in the comment section if you guys want that video. But just like a little some bullet points on Eric Adams, who's also running for mayor again, but he's running as an independent. Eric Adams was under federal investigation by the Attorney General of New York, the same Attorney General that got Cuomo out of there. Yeah, she found Eric Adams to have basically accepted bribes for foreign money from Turkey. He's accepted backdoor deals. He retaliated against staff who didn't show him blind loyalty. He used to have secret meetings with Trump while pretending to be a Democrat. And now he's running for the city that he's purposely scammed. So don't rank Andrew Cuomo because he's a predator. Don't even bother looking in Eric Adams' way because he is quite literally a charlatan. He's corrupt. The person that you should be ranking as your number one is Zohran Mamdani. I cannot stress that enough. If you want a city where food is affordable, buses actually work, kids eat free, parents aren't crushed by childcare, people without homes are treated with dignity, and the mayor doesn't take orders from billionaires, then you rank Zohran Mamdani number one for New York City mayor. They're scared of this man. They do not want this man to win, but we need him to win. He can fundamentally change how American politics works moving forward. He's endorsed by Bernie Sanders and AOC. They're endorsing him because they recognize that Andrew Cuomo is not a good person and is not a good representation of the Democratic Party. They know, like, AOC and Bernie Sanders understand that it's do or die out here in New York right now. I promise you, if Cuomo gets elected, New York will maintain the most expensive city to live in the world. You will see more and more everyday New Yorkers whose families have been there for generations get pushed out due to gentrification. And you will see that the cost of living increases while your income stays stagnant. There's only one person who is actively fighting to do the right thing, and that is Zohran Mamdani. I personally, like, just to get candid, I have always wanted to have someone that I could vote for with 110% pride. I have never had a candidate that I voted for where I stood with them 110%. If you, like me, are tired of voting for the lesser of two evils, why not vote for Zohran Mamdani, the actual good? It's literally him versus the sexual predator. Like, is that not insane, guys? Don't vote for Cuomo. Don't even rank Cuomo just because you know his name. He's not a good person. Point blank, period. And to me, what's really interesting is, like, the way in which people continue to act like everything he did was so long ago. It literally was not that long ago. Whereas Zohran Mamdani has nothing in his record like that. His policies are impactful. He has a plan for everything. He's talked about where the money is going to come from to make all these projects happen. Don't listen to the New York Times article that basically said that they're not endorsing anyone and then proceed to low-key try to endorse Cuomo. Don't listen to your, like, friends and family that know nothing about politics and know nothing about Zohran tell you that Cuomo's the better option, because he simply is not. You should not even rank that man. Please, please. Vote for the person that's actually trying to make a change. Vote for the person that's being honest and who is a humanist and who values life and dignity over profit. You have the opportunity to make America, to make New York City different. So why not, with all this power, with all this ability, why not rank Zohran Mamdani number one? I watched Love Island, and I watched twice as America voted to get a Trump supporter out the house. Goodbye, Yasila. I think that was her name. Like, goodbye. And for Huda and Jeremiah to break up, essentially. Like, people can vote to do that. But you're telling me we can't vote to get Zohran Mamdani, like, as mayor? Yes, we can. If we band together, if we put our heads together, we can do this. So today is June 19th. The episode will come out hopefully by no later than the 20th or the 21st. The final day to vote is the 24th in New York City. Early voting is out right now. Please, please go vote if you have the opportunity to do so. And yeah, like, I just want you guys to feel the excitement that I feel. I'm so happy for New York to even have the opportunity to have someone like Zohran Mamdani, to have someone that, like, actually values other people and actually cares to do the right thing. Like, I would give my left toe to be in a city run by Zohran Mamdani. Like, I really think you guys are on the precipice of something great. You guys are literally like about to experience what America could really look like if we put people first. And so yeah, that is that. Before I go, I want to say please check out the podcast on Spotify, on TikTok, and on Instagram, all at risk podcasts. And then for the Instagram, it's @riskpodcast_. I want to say thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that you're doing great. I hope that you're getting sleep and all that good stuff. And if you have not made a decision on who you're voting on yet, please take the time to educate yourself, to read up on the scandals of these politicians, because their scandals will help you understand them as people and like what they actually believe in. And yeah, do not rank Cuomo. That's it. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day. Please like and share and subscribe. And yeah, bye-bye.